Hello, everybody. I understand you could not hear me last time. The message I was trying to portray is just the city council should be with us about 7:10. So see you soon.
Welcome to open session, everyone. This is the August 18th Marina City Council meeting. We've just come out of closed session. We're 30 minutes behind. We apologize. We wouldn't have been this late if it wasn't that we thought we had to finish what we were discussing before coming back to open session. Our first task is always to have our city attorney report out on closed session, and he also has two other issues regarding power outage and public speaking tonight that he's going to update everybody about. Go ahead, Bob Rathie, our city attorney. Thank you. Bob, I think you're muted.
My apologies. My apologies. The council did meet in closed session this evening and considered two of the matters on the agenda. One matter was actually two matters of significant exposure to litigation, and also one matter of real property negotiations regarding the Marina Equestrian Center. I do have a report out from closed session this evening regarding the second matter I referred to, which is the property negotiations on the Marina Equestrian Center. Council gave direction that the verbal request given on August 7th for the temporary removal of the horses from the Marina Equestrian Center be rescinded at this time. Council will be considering later tonight a contract for demolition of the stockade. If that contract is approved, Council is committed to remain in close contact with the Marina Equestrian Association concerning the schedule for demolition activities. That was that decision was taken tonight in closed session. I would also like to mention again, I mentioned earlier during this meeting that should the power go out at any time during the meeting through a blackout or otherwise, Council has determined that we will try to resume the meeting on the hour or on the half hour following loss of power until 9:30 p.m. this evening. After 9:30 p.m., we will not be continuing the meeting. However, the meeting will be continued as a regular adjourned council meeting, commencing with a closed session on Friday evening. That's is that August 22nd? I don't have my calendar. I think it may be August 22nd, but I'll double check.
21st.
21st. Thank you, Councilman O'Connell. That would be on August 21st at 6 p.m. commencing with a closed session. This meeting will be continued as an adjourned regular meeting. Council tonight does reserve the right at its option to return to closed session after the meeting to consider any matters on the closed session that were not considered earlier today. Finally, I'll make a remark on a issue that was raised today regarding making a procedural change to the council rules and procedures for meetings. And that would be to change the time allowed for public comment on matters that are not scheduled on the agenda, for matters not on the agenda only, to make a procedural change to change the public comment from 4 minutes per speaker to 2 minutes per speaker. Council has the option to do that under its rules and procedures. The procedure to do so would be in response to a motion and a second, and council could amend the rules and procedures for tonight only, and only with reference to matters not on the agenda to make that time change. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Bob. Now, do we go through that potential voting process and public comment on the voting, the public comment 2-minute process or reduction in 4 minutes? Do we do that now or do we do that later?
It would be council's option whether you wanted to make that motion now and have the public comment on it, or wait until we get down to after the announcements, before special announcements and communication to the floor, which would be the only item to which the motion would pertain.
Okay, so let's do it, if there's no objection, at the start of number 6, before we go into special announcements and communications from the floor, that we consider limiting public comment for that item, number 6 on our agenda, to 2 minutes or some number less than 4 minutes. Okay. All right, so thank you very much, City Attorney Bob Rathie. Lane Long has volunteered to lead us, our city manager, lead us through the Pledge of Allegiance after a moment of silence. Thank you, Lane.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
To the flag
of the
of the
United States of America
America,
and to the
to the
republic
republic for which it
which
stands,
stands
one
one
nation,
nation
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
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 justice for
justice
all.
for
for
all.
all.
Thank you, Lane. And we move to first a special presentation by the Monterey Salinas Transit Board, and then recreation announcements from Terry Segrist, our recreation director. Thank you, MST, Linda, Lisa Reimhammer, for your patience tonight.
Yes, absolutely. I hope that you can hear me.
We can.
Excellent. So I would like to share my screen if that's possible.
Matt, can you verbalize how this works for Lisa?
Yeah, you should have the ability to, Lisa. Do you see it?
Okay. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Okay. Let me get myself started here from the beginning. Okay. Good evening, council and staff and distinguished guests, participants. My name is Lisa Reinheimer. I'm the Assistant General Manager for Monterey Salinas Transit. And I was asked by City Council member and MST board member, Frank O'Connell, to give this presentation to your council. And it's on the subject of contactless fare payment demonstration project. And it sounds a little crazy right now, but as I go through this presentation, I think it'll become more clear. So as part of MST's goals, as adopted in our strategic plan, our capital budget, and our action plan, we are moving towards a contactless fare payment technology on board of our buses. So what we'd like to do in this project is help reduce the cash transactions that happen on board the bus and those related costs. I'll get into that later. Reduce the number of Go Passes and Go Card production costs that we incur. Speed up the boarding process and reduce the amount of time we spend at the bus stops so we can have a faster travel experience for our passengers. We'd also like to determine the feasibility of whether a contactless card as a single universal option for our customers on all of our mobility services, including the fixed route buses, the on-call services, our ADA paratransit ride service, as well as the taxi vouchers that we give out to folks. We'd also like to see if there's a demand for a contactless fare option amongst our customers and test out a fare capping strategy. I'll get into all of this so it'll make more sense. And we'd also like to improve customer satisfaction, make it easier to pay for transit without having to go the extra lengths to get there. So we've partnered up with some little known folks such as Caltrans and Visa and a smaller company called Little Pay to test this out. It's a proof of concept, so it's going to be for 6 months. We'll test it out and see how it goes. So the California Integrated Travel Project had developed a feasibility study and identified 3 goals. One was to ensure that there is access to reliable transit data and information, reduce friction in payments, and this is where the contactless fare payment option comes in, and also create a statewide eligibility verification program that takes some of the work outside of what MST does in terms of eligibility for our discount programs. So what is contactless fare payment? Well, basically it's a credit card, wearable such as an iWatch, a digital wallet, anything that has this contactless symbol on the card. Also on your digital wallet, Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, also available on your watch, iWatch, whatever. So how does it work? Well, it's pretty simple. It's your contactless card, your enabled device, whatever you choose that's connected to your Visa, whatever card you have. There's a validator on board the bus. I'll show you what that looks like. The processing of that payment is done by Little Pay. It's done quickly so that people can get on board and go to their destination. And then that money goes into the bank. So it's going to look a little bit like this. We don't have an actual validator in our hands yet. It got somehow tied up in Los Angeles. I'm thinking it's going on a tour, but we're still trying to locate it. So it looks like this. And that's what a customer will see on board the bus. So they'll tap there when they board and then tap off when they get off the bus at their destination. So why are we doing this now? Well, part of it is because we have a recovery plan and a strategy that helps to reduce help prevent the spread of COVID-19 by decreasing the number of touch points that people have on board the bus. So limiting that interaction between a driver and a passenger. So speed up that boarding process, limit close contact with the driver, etc. We have come to find out that our customers are actually expecting us to have these types of things available to them, and I'll get into that a little bit. So this open payment system allows any contactless credit card, debit card, mobile wallet, etc. So it's open to pretty much everybody who has that contactless symbol. And slowly but surely over time, the credit card companies are issuing those credit cards with the contactless symbol. I have one that uses it and one that doesn't. So over time it changes. There's no special fare media required. So you use your contactless card or your wallet and that's it. You don't have to go to a customer service location to get a special MST fare. And it'll help us enable a pay by distance fare, which will be important for Marina. And I'll let you know how in a minute. So we did some customer satisfaction surveys in June of this year. They weren't done in the normal way that we do it, but we did get some feedback, and 68% of our passengers have actually heard of this technology, so that's good. 22% said they actually use it. 32% they would ride more often if it were available to them. So that's both in the 2018 survey that we did as well as the one from a couple months ago. Anyone with the contactless symbol, I already talked about that. Riders traveling shorter distances pay less, and it also introduces a concept called fare capping. And that's what we're proposing in this demonstration is to have our fares calculated by the distance an individual actually travels from point to point. So where this becomes important for Marina is currently the line 20 goes through Marina, it's Salinas to Monterey, and the fare is $3.50. But Marina residents are only going for half the distance between Salinas and Marina. Well, in this new strategy, instead of paying $3.50, they would pay $2.50 because of the shorter distance. Additionally, we're introducing this concept called fare capping, and that's where you would pay no more than $10 a day, depending on your travel. I mean, you could pay $5 if it's just a one trip, 2 trips on a $2.50 route. But if you're making longer distance travel, then you'd only pay $10 a day, and that's no matter how many times you travel on the MST system. And then we'd have a 7-day, a 31-day as well. And let's see, when will this be available? Well, we're targeting October, November timeframe. We're still working out some of the kinks with our partners. So we will be making big announcements, of course, when it is available to our customers. So now I'm going to get into a couple of questions that you all may have. I know our board had these questions. What about cybersecurity, privacy? Well, there is limited data that's collected during that transaction process, and it's never sold or given away by Visa or Little Pay, and it would be a serious breach of cybersecurity rules of California if that information were given away or sold. So it's very protected data. With a fare by distance, do passengers pay more or less? I got into that a little bit, but most of them will probably pay about the same. We tried to introduce this fare by distance as similar to our existing fare structure as we possibly could. And a passenger certainly has the option of either paying with this contactless option or still paying with cash on board the bus. So there are options for folks. Fare capping, I talked about that a little bit. Will passengers be required to install a special app? No special app is required. Only those credit cards with that insignia, like tap to pay, would be eligible. What about discounts for seniors, persons with disabilities, and veterans? Upon launch, this will not be available for the discount fare. It will only be available for our regular riders. However, during a phase 2, during the demonstration period, we are working to incorporate these special populations into our tap to pay launch here. Can customers still pay with cash? Absolutely. They can fumble around for loose change and put it in the fare box, just as they always have. But the contactless is a safe alternative to cash in a COVID world. How much does MST spend to process and handle fare payments? This was actually quite a shock to me when we pulled the numbers. In 2019, we spent $640,000 to process and handle in any number of different ways. And that was about 8% of the amount that we collect from our customers. So it's a pretty high cost. So with a contactless situation, the transaction fees would be no more than 3.86%, which is with this California integrated travel project that I talked about earlier. If we can get the entire state onto some kind of contactless system, that will yield a lower rate for all of us. And our current transaction fees are 3.66% of what we collect. And for this project, because it's a demonstration, there's really no capital outlay for those validators. So our percent of the transactions that we collect. So next steps, we will receive, install, and test the equipment later on in September, October. We need to train our staff, our drivers, and obviously promote and let people know that this option is available. We will consider this a 6-month demonstration, and in October, November timeframe when we launch, and analyze the results and report back to the MST board, and give the board information to make a possible future decision about which way and which direction MST should go in the future with regard to contactless fare payment options. So with that, I've talked enough. I'm happy. Oops. Wait, no, I went backwards. Sorry about that. Next was I am done. So feel free to ask me any questions if you have them.
Lisa, thank you very much. And thanks to Councilmember Frank O'Connell for representing Marina at the Marina Salinas Transit Board of Directors. This looks like a fantastic program. It seems to work in other places really well where you don't have to have any more cash transactions. Questions by anybody on City Council? Okay.
I don't have any questions. I just want to say this is a really, I'm excited to see this coming down the pike, no pun intended.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the work.
All right. I don't see any new hands going up with the public who I think were putting their hands up prior for other matters. So just say thank you, Lisa, especially for your patience since we got a late start tonight, but that program that you're helping to implement is wonderful. Thanks to everyone that's helping you do it as well.
Yes, thank you, and good luck with your meeting. I'm going to sign off and try to have some dinner.
All right.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Good night. Terry Segrist is the Director of the Recreation and Cultural Services Department. Terry has recreation announcements tonight. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, members of the public. We'll try to go through these quickly. Matt, are we good to go? So let's start out with our food programs. The hot meals program, both Great Plates, extended till September 9. The qualifications for our seniors are there. We also have an extension of the Marina Manor hot meals program that we're serving, and the Gensay Oaks will continue to be serviced by Meals on Wheels for our seniors. Next slide. The Grab and Go program by the MPUSD School District. We have 4 locations in Marina that our youth can get their meals: Marina Vista, Crumpton, Lambs, and Olson. Also for Grab and Go, University Villages, Cypress, and Charles Apartments will continue to receive their weekend packages for meals for the families living there, thanks to the Boys and Girls Club. And we opened up our first resource center at Marina High School to support our new 167 homeless now to 360 youth on our homeless list. So our first resource center has been set up for that. Next slide, please. For the food resources, again, here's all the information on all the different food distributions that are going on, thanks to the Marina Foundation and many, many partners. The key ones are Monday morning at the library, 8:30, Tuesday for seniors, 2 to 4, Friday for families, 2 to 4. And there's others, but those are the main ones. Next slide. Meeting with Dr. Moreno on Monday indicated that youth programs will continue to be virtual. Not a lot happening, so our virtual camps are still continue to be offered as part of our virtual recreation program, and you can get that online. Next slide. Cooperation with the Boys and Girls Club. We have our virtual clubhouse, and you can see we have several live programs in both science, games, music, gym, tech, learning center, and art, and those are all live programs. Next slide. The Marina Kids Move programs supported by Monterey Bay Moves every Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. You can see how that works. And just to move it up a little bit, Matt, for the next part. There you go. And then we're still looking for sponsors to help us continue that program. Next slide. Our virtual camps, we have 6. We have soccer, basketball, football, baseball, martial arts, and volleyball. So those are still active. Next slide. We extended our half marathon thanks to the Police Activities League, and we want to thank those folks. So that'll continue August through September. Next slide. Gentle yoga occurs every Tuesday at 10 o'clock. This is for our seniors. And the next lower down on this slide just kind of gives you an idea what gentle yoga is. Very successful virtual program for our seniors currently. Next slide. One more week of mindful mediation supported by the Friends of the Marina Library. This is their program. The last one of these is Monday, August 24th. Next slide. For our mental health programs through the mental health department, our next senior Connect program is the COVID questions and resources on 8/20. Very important. This is for our seniors. That goes on at Thursday at 11 o'clock. Next slide. And then our next seminar, sponsored by Friends of Marina Library, is the Advanced Healthcare Directives and the Financial Powers of Attorney Seminar. Those are your recreation announcements for this evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Take care. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Terry.
Thank you.
Any questions for Terry before we let him move on to the next item? Okay, Terry, thanks again. And thanks to all the volunteers and all the staff that are helping you doing all these. And a special shout out to Monterey Bay Moves, because they're really stepping up to provide those health activities. Okay, so we're going to move to special announcements, communications with the floor, anything that's on your mind, upcoming meetings, etc. But before we do that, does somebody want to make a motion to, we've not done this before, but this is an extraordinary meeting. We're way behind schedule. Does somebody want to make a motion, and I would if nobody does, to discuss a reduction in public comment for this item number 6 only, tonight only?
Yes, I would make a motion that we, for anything that is not on the agenda, we keep it, we cut the time to 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll second that. So we're going from 4 minutes to 2 minutes for this item tonight only because of extraordinary circumstances. Um, and well, now we will open that up. Is there any council that would like to speak to that before we go to public comment to speak to that? Okay, now it's kind of ironic, but you have up to 4 minutes to speak to this. I know that Andrew Turbell wants to speak to this. So let's go to Andrew first.
Well, I'm sorry, I can pivot down to 2 minutes on your behalf. I thought you were moving on to item 6. I apologize.
I picked on you because I promised you earlier that you'd have 4 minutes. I did not foresee this because we've never done this before. So I apologize to you specifically, Andrew, but thank you for your comment. So we'll keep your hand raised for the next item. Okay, did anyone else want to speak to this comment? If you could just flash your hand on, flash your hand off, then I would know that it was for this item that you wanted to speak. I don't see any hands flashing, so I'm going to assume that Fred Watson, Kathy Biala, and everybody else. Well, Kathy Biala, it looks like your hand has flashed a couple times. Kathy, did you want to speak to this item? I'm trying to allow you to talk.
You mean the item of reducing the time to 2 minutes if it is
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah. Kathy, was your hand up to speak to the reduction?
Yes. Yes, it was.
Okay, please continue.
Yes. This is a very surprising move on the part of the council. And I think that going from 2 and slashing it to, going from 4 to slash it to 2 without any prior notice is really difficult. I think all of us in the public sector have been strapped with this kind of thing in other public agencies, and it really is very difficult to say things when you are counting on 4 minutes. I understand it's for only this meeting, but I would ask you to not do to 2 minutes, but to do at least to 3 minutes. And I think that would be fair enough. And we all will try to cut back, but to cut it down to 2 minutes when we're expecting to speak for 4, I think is rather inconsiderate of the public. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kathy. Does anyone else want to speak to this motion? And if you do, click off and then click your hand back on. It looks like Christina Medina Dirksen is perhaps wanting to speak to this. Go ahead, Christina. I'm trying to get you set up here. Christina, if you're unmuted, go ahead. I can't even find you at the moment. Okay, there you are. Okay, Christina.
Okay, now you can hear me, correct?
Yes, good evening.
Yeah. Hello, good evening, Council. Thank you very much for this time to speak. I have a question about the minute reduction. Is it possible as an accommodation to cede time if I have a prepared statement and I had prepared it for 4 minutes? Can I cede my time to continue as a reasonable accommodation to this change in last minute change?
Okay, thank you. Your audio was weak, but we heard that your question was whether you could see time, and we'll take up that and any other questions at the end of public comment on this. Did you want to say more, Christina? You still have the floor.
No, that is it. Thank you very much, and it's a very interesting evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Yes, it is. Okay, anybody else wanting to speak to the 4 minutes versus the 2 minutes? If you could take your hand off and then put your hand back on at this time, I would know you want to speak to this issue now. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone doing that. This is very difficult on Zoom as compared to a brick and mortar. I'm doing my best. So we'll go ahead and close public comment. And I sincerely apologize if someone wanted to comment and I didn't see your hand toggle on and off. Okay, we'll come back to council. The question is, can we cede time from one speaker to another? And can we consider going to 3 minutes instead of 2 minutes? Let me ask the maker of the motion, Lisa, Councilmember Berkeley, first, what her thoughts are on those two questions.
Can we cede time as in turning it over to someone else? I feel like we had that question at a previous meeting, and I believe the answer was no. I'll turn that over to City Attorney about can we cede time.
Yes, under normal circumstances, we don't have a provision for ceding time from one speaker to another. However, if we are changing the rules here for this item tonight, that could be part of the motion.
Okay.
And then, I'm sorry, Lisa.
So I guess to answer that question, so if Christina wanted to cede her time to Kathy, for example, then I would ask that they publicly comment on that, and that would mean then that Christina doesn't have can't speak because she ceded her time to Kathy, correct?
Yeah, so if you're saying that they want to cede their entire 2 minutes, that's okay, but they can't cede 1 minute and still speak for 1 minute, or what? I'm not sure.
Well, right, no, if she's going to cede some of the time, that's fine. But I just, my concern is it's going to start to get messy and complicated with the timer, and because of this medium.
Agreed.
That was,
and there was the timekeeper.
that was our Deputy City Clerk, Anita Shepard-Sharp, saying that it would be difficult for her to manage the clock with time sequences. Okay, a question of 3 minutes. Lisa, as the motion maker, what's your thought?
I think that we had this conversation earlier, and I think that we should keep it to 2 minutes.
Okay. Do you mean the conversation was at a previous city council meeting?
Yes, or I think we should keep it to 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay. I know what it's like to prepare to say something important and then have the kind of the rug pulled, and I've seen it done at other venues, and it's affected us because we were the ones whose rugs were pulled.
Totally agree with you.
Okay.
But there are a lot of speakers we have 63 people who are here, and I believe most of these people are here to speak about the stockade or other issues that are perceived to have some correlation with the MEA. And so, yeah.
That's a good point, and we want people to know that anything on the stockade, this is not the time to talk. Okay. Council, okay, I'll make a substitute motion that we go to 3 minutes instead of 2 minutes to try to compromise a bit. Is there a second to that substitute motion? Okay, there's no second to my substitute motion, so that motion dies for a lack of second. And if no council person wants to speak at this time, we'll go to Anita for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Berkeley.
Yes.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Morton. Yes. Mayor Delgado.
No. Thank you, everyone. That motion passes 3-1 with myself dissenting. And so we will move on to public comment at this time. For this item, it will be 2 minutes per person. And we'll start with Kathy Biala, and then Dr. Katina Smith, and then Andrew Turnbull. Okay, Kathy's hand was not raised, so I'm not sure. Let's go to Dr. Katina Smith. And Dr. Katina Smith, you can unmute yourself. There you go.
Bruce, I think Kathy is going to be going first.
Okay, we'll go back then. Go ahead, Kathy, if you can unmute yourself.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, but Rick Reinford absolutely needs to go first because then people will not understand what I'm saying. And so.
Okay, we'll go to Rick. I'm doing my best under weird circumstances tonight. Rick, go ahead. You're ready to go.
Okay, good evening. My name is Rick Reinford. I intended to read verbatim statements made by Councilmember Frank O'Connell and would like those entered in their entirety in the public record if possible. And I'm going to skip over a couple of those from his May and June newsletters and go to an email that he sent to my friend Kathy Biala. And I'm quoting, "Ms. Biala, I have become aware of a matter that is of great concern to me, and I want to confirm this information as true or false. Did you earlier this year seek to have a photo op in which you specifically requested that Black, brown, and other people of color stand behind you or with you in the photo? If so, I find it very, very disturbing that you would refer to people by the color of their skin and not by their names. It appears to be an obvious case of using people of color because of their color. If you did so, what justification do you have for identifying any persons by the color of their skin instead of by their names? I urge you to make others aware of your reasoning by public comment at town hall meetings, city council meetings, planning commission meetings, next door Marina, Facebook, Twitter, and letters to the editors of the various local newspapers. The information is not true. I will do everything to squelch it as soon as possible. I look forward to your response. Sincerely, Frank O'Connell, Marina City Councilman." Then on July 23rd, he sent a follow-up demand for a response, which I will not read. Then in his August newsletter, he writes, quote, "Questions to candidates. Please ask questions of the candidates. Limit them to city issues and not derogatory, insulting, and disrespectful. As of July 2nd, I submitted questions on city issues to candidate Biala. I resubmitted them to her after I had announced that I was not a candidate. To date, she has failed to respond to the questions. We must insist that city-related questions be answered by the candidates." End quote. And that's the end of my reading. But I would add, I know from numerous conversations with Kathy that diversity and inclusiveness are core values for her, and to have those distorted and labeled as racist under the cloak of Mr. O'Connell's official position was deeply disturbing to her as well as to me. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Rick. We'll go to Kathy, and then Dr. Katina Smith, and then Andrew Turnbull.
Thank you. Am I on?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
Frank O'Connell has demanded that I respond to him in a whole host of public venues, and so I do this tonight. I have deferred my comments until after the deadline for candidate filing so as to make this solely about a sitting council member's behavior towards a constituent. I believe that Mr. O'Connell has the freedom to criticize me as an individual or as a candidate if he had chosen to run again. What is most disturbing about these statements is that he does so signing his title Marina City Councilman, while he makes false accusations related to race to call out a person of color. I found Mr. O'Connell's actions distressing, especially in the backdrop of Black Lives Matter and our nation's sensitivities to curb hate and injustices. He wrote his newsletter entries insinuating racial bias on the part of people of color at a time he knew that two declared candidates, myself being one and Christina Medina Dirksen the other, both of us women of color. I would have hoped that Marina would be glad that people of color are stepping up to run, and may the best man or woman win. In truth, his persistent communications were quite harmful and intimidating to me because it was aimed not at anything I have legitimately done or said, but his attacks were more about me, my race, who I am. Over these last several weeks, having to grapple with my own many thoughts and feelings, I have come to understand much more about systemic racism. I know there are more of us who believe in inclusion and acceptance than those wishing to act and speak aggressively against others. And as a friend has posted on his window, silence is not an option, so I take a personal risk here tonight in responding to Mr. O'Connell's actions, as I too have an obligation to not be silent. And Mr. Mayor, from the same computer, Harvey Biala would like to speak also. Just go ahead and start.
Yeah. I wish to explain to you the significance of what has occurred in the multiple posts by Council Member O'Connell and his personal demanding emails he has sent to my wife under the authority of his position of power as a council member. All the identified posts were about race, a white person seemingly wanting to accuse a person of color of being a racist. Such comments have been inflammatory, demeaning, and aimed at inciting ill will towards my wife and completely untrue and unfounded. The words of Council Member O'Connell demonstrate to me that there is a complete lack of awareness by certain white people in positions of power to understand how their actions impact people of color. We as white people never fully understand the vulnerability of persons of color to be vilified, dominated, humiliated, and blamed as they try to go about their daily lives, and has the end effect of intimidating and silencing them. Without any provocation, Mr. O'Connell speaks of a nameless photo that he appears to have heard about from an unidentified person that he now insinuates some nefarious racial content. It was wrong for someone to transfer such false whisperings to Mr. O'Connell. And then it was wrong of Ms. Councilmember O'Connell to begin harassing my wife and making unwarranted demands for explanations from his position as a council member, as if she were guilty of some crime. There should be an inquiry into Mr. O'Connell's behavior by impartial persons at the city, since he acts in his authority as a council person. He has made this a systems issue. This inquiry should be less about whether my wife did anything wrong, but more about whether it is appropriate for a sitting council member to repeatedly make such unfounded accusations about race issues to a constituent of color. How we treat this incident today will be reflective of how we see and handle systemic racism in the future. Isn't this what our city has committed to study? This will be our first example. It is not out there somewhere. It is right here. It is not up to my wife to explain anything to Mr. O'Connell. It is up to this council to stop this behavior. Thank you.
Thank you, Harvey. We'll continue with Dr. Katina Smith and then Andrew Turnbull.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm appalled. Can you hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Okay. I'm appalled that a council member would use his status and his power to intimidate a member of this community. I can't believe I have to say this, but it's wrong. It's bullying made worse by use of race as a reason. When I found out about what happened to Ms. Biala, I was disappointed again. Since I've begun engaging this community as a person of color, I've been disappointed over and over when it comes to issues of race and equity. I keep hearing and reading racist rhetoric, and I keep experiencing behavior directed at me and at people I know. At the same time, I consistently hear that Marina has no problems between races, that we don't need a systemic racism study, it's a waste of money, and that people who talk about race are divisive and hurting our community. I'll tell you what's really hurting our community are people that deny the difficulties of others and dismiss attempts and opportunities to really talk about the very real challenges and painful and degrading challenges that people in our community deal with. The mayor attempted to have a discussion on Nextdoor only to be addressed with anger and accusations that he's trying to divide our community. He's really trying to work to repair it. He doesn't have the answers, but he's trying, and I think that's what's important. We have a lot of work to do, and it seems like we're stuck. I don't think Marina is full of racists because I've met people who are not. They've encouraged me and supported me during these recent violations of my freedom by racists in our community that believe I don't have the right to fly a flag on my own property that says my life matters. That says to me that it's okay for me to have rights on paper, but when I demonstrate my rights in protest with a flag, well, that doesn't work, not in my backyard.
Thank you, Katina.
Is my time up?
Yes, I have to interrupt.
Okay.
Thank you, Katina. Let us go to Andrew Turnbull. You might need to unmute yourself on your end, Andrew.
Oh, thank you. Mayor Delgado, if there are more comments on that particular subject, I would yield. I'd rather go to a new subject.
Okay, please raise your hand, Andrew. Uh, Andrew, why don't you go ahead, because I really don't know.
Okay, fair enough. I'm pivoting a little bit because I had a 4-minute presentation ready, but Mr. City Attorney Bob Rathie, I hope I'm saying your name right. I noticed your report when we came back from closed session that currently you're taking a different tact with regard to the 60-day moratorium. I would like to take the minute and 37 seconds I have left to talk about something relevant, which is desensitization of a horse. And it's, I was quoting from Dr. Miller that the horse can be desensitized to frightening but harmless stimuli more quickly than any other domestic animal. If it did not quickly desensitize to such stimuli.
Esther, can I throw this away?
I'm sorry, am I?
Please continue, Andrew. I'm trying to control the background.
I got it.
Sorry about
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. So if the horse didn't quickly desensitize to such stimuli, once it determined that they were harmless, it would never stop running. The horse would never have time to eat, drink, rest, or reproduce. So the easily frightened horse, once it's convinced that what frightened is harmless, soon ignores it. In essence, Dr. Robert Miller explains why Steinbeck Country Equine Veterinary refuted the claims that demolition on nearby property would be a threat to the operation of your wonderful Marina Equestrian Center. Okay, so with the 27 seconds left, I'm going to send you guys an email of the 4-minute discussion I had congratulating you on the equine assisted therapy for humans that you have in place, to congratulate you on the fact that you have this excellent place for horses to come in the middle of a fire. And I think you guys have got a great center. I hope you support it.
Thank you, Andrew. I know you spent a lot of time on this, and best wishes to you and your daughter and your future equine activities. Okay, let's go to Christina Medina Dirksen.
Hello, this is Christina Medina Dirksen. I apologize. I didn't realize the mic was on when I asked my daughter to throw something away. So I apologize, that was me. I have a question for the council. I would like to know, is there a policy with communications between council members and constituents / residents? And if not, well, maybe you can't do the follow-up, but I'd like to know why, and if maybe the city attorney can speak to what parameters of communications are appropriate or not, using your name as a council member or the seal of the city council. We've had an issue earlier this year. I won't go into details about that, but I think this is something that the council should address. Much thanks for all you do.
Okay, thank you. And we'll answer that question and others when public comment is over. And right now we'll go to Elizabeth. Hello, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, you need to unmute yourself on your end, I believe. Good evening.
Good evening. Now, I don't know, can I talk about the horses?
Yes, you may. You can talk about anything at this point. You have 2 minutes.
During the war, we were moved from Vienna out to a farm, which the farmer had horses, cows, and, the whole schmear. And we were outside, and the mayor of the city of Landshut didn't want to give it up. The Americans were coming. The Germans were shooting over our heads. Now, these bombs were flying around. Those horses, sometimes they just, they let out a yip. But other than that, they were okay. So I don't see why, if they demolishing the prison over there, that the horses would be infected by that. I really don't think so. I mean, this is what I saw. This is what I know the fact to be, And the farmer had quite a few horses because that's what pulled the plow and everything else, the carts and all of that, So I can't say it, that they would hurt the horses. And where would these people take the horses to? That's another problem, okay? All right, I see my time is just about up. I really want you guys to think about the people and the horses and the stuff that's good for the handicapped children and the people with SPDD, whatever they have, and they're going out there for nothing, it doesn't cost them anything to get therapy out there. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I really want to have the horses stay where they are.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I think many agree with you, and that 60-day notice has been rescinded, that verbal request. Okay, Fred Watson, and then Danielle, Karen, and Carissa.
Thank you, Mayor. This is Fred Watson. When the time comes, I have a comment on item 11C, and given the late start and the large number of speakers, I wondered if council might consider continuing that item, as it does not appear to be terribly critical, and there might be a lot, so much before then that the meeting might not reach that item. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. We'll discuss that as soon as public comment's over. We still hope to get to it. Okay, we'll go to Danielle Burchett, PhD.
Hello.
Hello, Danielle.
I've heard a lot of white Marina neighbors telling racially minoritized neighbors that they're somehow gravely offended by their actions. Offended on Nextdoor by Black neighbors hanging Black Lives Matters flags. Offended at a Latino mayor for sitting on a piece of concrete while leading the effort to raise over $15,000 to get an MLK statue reinstated. Offended by an Asian American city council candidate for possibly using terms like Black and brown. These behaviors are quite disheartening to me. I'm particularly concerned that a sitting council member is permitted to use a position of power in a community newsletter to repeatedly harass a city council candidate who, by the way, had no obligation to respond to such harassment, but graciously did so anyway tonight. Councilmember O'Connell, you asked Marina voters whether we would vote for a candidate whose conduct shows they're racist. Fortunately, with you not running for re-election, voters won't need to decide whether or not to vote for someone who doesn't understand that Black and brown are commonly used terms to refer to minoritized populations, and who uses their position of power for harassment against minorities. These actions demonstrate the critical need for an independent review of racist practices and behaviors in our city's leadership. My questions for the council are: 1, is it an abuse of power for a sitting council member to use their newsletter to repeatedly publicly harass a constituent and candidate? 2, what actions can be taken to file formal complaints regarding abuse of power, and what would the consequences be? And 3, what is the timeline for getting a study of racism in our city leadership underway? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Danielle. Let's move to Karen Anderson, and then Carissa, she, her, and then Nancy Amadeo.
Thank you, Mayor Delgado. I'd like to be able to share an image. Is that possible?
Matt Mogeson, can we move attendees? Karen, I think I talked about this with Matt today because there were other people besides you that wanted to do something. I am going to promote you to panelist. And do you have a share screen button, Karen? Can you share your own document, Karen? I don't think we can share your document. You have to do that. Matt, do you have any input on this?
The share screen button is at the bottom of their screen. It says share screen in green.
So the answer to your question, Karen, is you can only share if you have the ability to do so from your end tonight. We don't have a policy or a procedure to deal with that kind of request tonight, other than to make you a panelist as we have done.
Mayor, that makes it so I have to drop the clock from the screen and holler in when time's up.
Right. So I don't, Matt, what was your leaning on this?
If she would like to share an image, you've promoted her to panelist, correct? All she has to do is share that image using the feature at the bottom of her screen called share screen. That file has to be shared from the computer that it's located on.
Okay, I understand, Karen, if you don't have a computer, you might not be able to do this tonight, but there's nothing else we can do at this time. And Karen, are you still there with us? I think we lost Karen. So when you can come back on, Karen, please rejoin us. Oh,
I'm
I
here.
see.
I'm here. Can you see the image?
We do see an image on the screen, yes.
Great. Thank you so much. I hope I can start over. My name is Karen Anderson, and I've also been privy to Marina City Council member Frank O'Connell's emails to Kathy Biala regarding her alleged request for people of color to stand with her for a photo op. To the best of our knowledge and conjecture, without any idea to what Mr. O'Connell alludes, this is the photo which we consider might be the one. For the record, this photo was taken by a hotel staff member who was so impressed by this group's presentations to the California Coastal Commission's March 12th meeting that she insisted that she must take a picture of all the attendees to commemorate the event. Do you recognize these Marina members of Just Water? You should, because they live here and have been representing your and my best interests with regard to this important issue. On March 12th, this group traveled to Scotts Valley to make additional statements during this California Coastal Commission's public comment period to request that they deny CalAM's permit application. This was the final in-person meeting as Chair Padilla became symptomatic the following day and was hospitalized with COVID-19 for many weeks to follow. This turned out to be a high-risk situation for everyone involved. Everyone who lives in Marina and/or is a customer of the Marina Coast Water District should be proud of the organizational zeal and passion Kathy Biala represents on behalf of all of us. It is an honor to be part of the Just Water Committee, and thank you for the time tonight.
Thank you, Karen. And we will move on to Carissa, she, her.
Okay, am I here?
Yes, good evening, Carissa.
All right, great, thank you. So I also wanted to mention the verbatim of what Frank wrote in a couple of his newsletters. He wrote, "Would you vote for a candidate who uses diversity of population as a reason to elect him or her, but refers to people by their skin color?" The other one says, "Would you vote for a mayoral or city council candidate whose conduct tends to show that he or she is a racist?" Okay, so this is spreading a lie, trying to paint Kathy as a racist. Now here's my comment. When I learned about the messages written by Frank, I felt I had to speak out to defend Kathy. Frank accused Kathy of using people of color because of their color. Then he proceeds to tell her to publicly announce why she did so, and that if the information is not true, this is in quotes, "I will do everything to squelch it as soon as possible." How this reads to me is a man using lawyer talk to be as intimidating as possible to make Kathy either back out of her campaign or make her feel scared. But here's the real problem. Frank, being a white man, felt secure enough with his position in society to make nasty remarks and not expect to get pushback. Kathy, on the other hand, debated long and hard about whether or not to ever discuss this behavior because she knows she will receive pushback. She is a woman of color and she's experienced it her whole life. Additionally, Frank, the newsletter questions you posed represent a major flaw in our political system. Smearing a candidate for the sake of political sabotage is absolutely inappropriate, but unfortunately a norm in our country. I have two questions. Frank, are you willing to apologize for your intimidation tactics against Kathy? And second, is there a way emails should not go unnoticed? And as a mom, I was going to say that I'm trying to raise my kid to be.
Carissa, I'm sorry to interrupt you,
I
but
know.
2 minutes is up. And thank you for joining us tonight. And Frank O'Connell will have his opportunity, as we all do, when comments are made about us as individuals. Okay, we will go to Nancy Amadeo, and then David Brown and Fiong Nguyen next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A totally different subject. My husband and I are both permanent absentee voters, and we have always delivered our ballots early to City Hall, and talked to others who also are permanent absentee voters. And we know that City Hall is now closed to the public, and would like to know what other site is available for us to deliver our ballots to prior to the day of the election. As senior citizens, we are uncomfortable going to our voting place. So we would certainly like to do something that is less likely to involve the public, where we can put our ballots in a secure drop box and not rely on the Postal Service. We've all heard about what's going on with the Postal Service, and supposedly it's going to be rectified, but I don't really trust it. So if that question could be answered tonight or at the next meeting, if it's not available tonight, I would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nancy. I think that our city clerk has moved the ballot box to the police department, but we'll let her answer that question as soon as public comment is over. Let's now move to David Brown, and then Fyong Nguyen, and then Sandy Korn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening. My name is David Brown. I'm a former city council member. I'd like to know, and identifying himself as a Marina councilman, recently misused his position as a council member to publicly criticize water activist and planning commissioner Kathy Biala, supposedly for grouping people of color, along with, by the way, Caucasian males, in a photo illustrating that the opposition to the Cal-Am desal plant, opposed overwhelmingly by Marina residents, is opposed by a cross-section of our ethnically diverse city. What is wrong with that? She had people of diverse ethnicity pose with white males for a photo illustrating Marina's diversity and diverse opposition. For this, Councilman Frank O'Connell directed the word racist at Miss Biala. Shame on you, Councilmember O'Connell. What's the problem? Well, the real problem here is Councilmember O'Connell's race-baiting behavior using his official title against a person of color. Now, Councilmember O'Connell may think it's appropriate, interesting, ironic, maybe weirdly satisfying to label a woman of color a racist. And yes, he did use the word racist. In Frank, what Councilmember O'Connell has done is he's engaged in a gratuitous, undeserved, inappropriate race-baiting attack on a woman of color for her advocacy on behalf of Marina residents of diverse background, and added his official title to it. Shame on you, Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, David. We move on to Fyong Nguyen, and then Sandy Korn. Yes, good evening. Thank you, Fyong. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Thank you. Okay, let's go to Sandy Corn.
As you know, with the big fire on River Street, it's been a sanctuary for horses and other animals. So I would really hope that the Marina City Council would reconsider terminating any kind of contract with the Marina Equestrian Center. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peggy. And we'll go to, I have to scroll down a bit to see Brad and then Adriana. Good evening, Brad.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Since my wife's name wasn't on there, I wanted to defer to my wife, Kathy, if that's okay.
Sure.
Hi, yes, my name is Kathy, and I just wanted to respond to the comment for the previous Corn, her last name Corn?
Sandra Corn.
Sandra Corn, thank you. Regarding, this isn't in Marina, but for her grandson, I don't know if she's aware of the Monterey Zoo, which is an amazing place that is open currently. And I just want to put a plug in for them because it's a nonprofit organization run by a guy, Charlie, and he's got all these animals that have been, he takes them in that have, he used to train animals for movies and TV shows and take animals from circuses and animals that they were potentially would be put down. But, and it's, the Monterey Zoo it's in between, it's in Salinas. I'm sure you're aware of it, Mr. Mayor, but it's an awesome place. Our grandsons keep going there and it's pretty reasonable. And it's open from 10 to 3, 7 days a week. And you have that time period to go. They have a great gift shop. And the animals they even have an area called Oz, which is lions and tigers and bears. I encourage everyone to go there and check it out because it's an awesome place. And these animals are just, there's everything. There's elephants and tigers and porcupines. I mean, everything you can think of, birds. There's even an eagle, American eagle is there. They're going to have sloths coming in the future and a reptile area that's upcoming. So please help support, especially him under this virus thing. He's been dealing with that and still trying to feed him. But thank you so much for hearing me out. Take care.
Thank you, Kathy and Brad.
Yes.
Go to Adriana.
Hi, yes, this is Crystal Giacomelli again. Adriana Giacomelli is my wife, and I just wanted to make a comment. We are at the Marina Equestrian Center and part of the association, and we would have a lot more people chiming in right now and speaking to you guys, but I literally have all of my members and boarders and volunteers literally evacuating horses right now as we speak, headed to Salinas and near the Kashawa area, and so they could not be on this call. So I just want to let you know that there are people in their trucks and their trailers literally hauling animals that will probably not have a place to return to. But moving forward, I've loved the Marina Equestrian Association. I'm currently a board member. I have been there, I'm member at large, and I've been there for over 4 years. And when I first found this area of Marina, I was just in love. I'm originally from Davis and attended, and I love Marina. So we decided to buy locally and stay literally because of the Marina Equestrian Center. I know that a topic is we're not the most beautiful, and no, right now we're not. We want to fix it. We're open to change and fixing it and making us beautiful, but our horses are safe and well loved and well fed. And I think we have enough community members and veterinarians that will reiterate that fact. We love our horses, and I really do believe that we would love to see each and every one of you councilmen and women at the MEA and would welcome you with open arms. And I would love to personally walk you through and show you all of our emus and donkeys now. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Crystal and Adriana. We'll move to Margaret and then Lisbeth. Good evening, Margaret.
Good evening. Am I unmuted?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay,
Good evening.
thank you. It's important to understand how Marina acquired MEC Park and why. The city applied for the land through National Park Service to develop a public equestrian center and park with public access and trail connections. The land transfer was conditioned on this use, which was incorporated into the 1998 quitclaim deed as a city obligation forever. MEC's program of utilization was approved by NPS in 1998. The city then entered a contractual relationship with the MEA Horse Club, which agreed to develop the public park according to a 5-year plan. In 2005, MEA had failed to perform, and Marina issued an RFP for a concessionaire, then abruptly sold the parcel to a nonprofit. Gail Morton got hold of the quitclaim deed, identified the legally enforceable covenant, and drafted a petition to National Park Service to hold Marina to its responsibility for a public park and equestrian center. In 2012, the city established an ad hoc committee to discuss developing the park. MEA and Friends of the Four-Door Warhorse were full members of the committee. Many formal agendized public hearings were held. Findings were incorporated into an updated program of utilization. MEA was heard and very much part of the process. In 2017, NPS informed the city that private horse boarding was not allowed. MEA is supposed to be a public park for us all, for horses, biking, scouting, education, history, parties, bocce ball, etc. Council, give us our public park. Issue the RFP. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. And I apologize to everyone for perhaps having to cut your 4-minute comments, but tonight is an extraordinary night. Lisbeth, and then Paul, and then Chrisella. Go ahead, Elizabeth Fisher.
Good evening, Mayor Delgado and the council members. As you all know, Marina's water is in jeopardy of being stolen by Kellam, a private for-profit company that delivers water to our neighbors on the peninsula. Citizens for Just Water is a group of residents who are fighting to stop CalAm from building a desalination project on Marina's beach. Please visit our website, citizensforjustwater.org, and click on Sign up for updates to be added to the email list. On Thursday, September 17, the California Coastal Commission will have a special Zoom meeting to decide whether to approve CalAm's project or not. We need many people who can speak for 1 minute during the public comments. Please let us know if you are available to speak in the afternoon of September 17. We can provide a script for you. More and more signs with the snowy plover and the words Stop CalAm are being displayed in Marina and East Garrison. This window sign can be downloaded from the website, citizensforjustwater.org. We ask everyone to print this 8.5 by 11 mini poster and to display it in their windows. Then take a photo of yourself and your household members in front of the poster and email it to us. The photos will be used to show the Coastal Commission that Marina's residents are requesting to deny CalAm's proposed slant wells. This is instead of going to an actual meeting like we did last November with so many speakers from Marina and East Garrison, and also having speakers at City Hall. Or please visit us at the farmers market every Sunday between 10 and 2 to get information, pick up a window sign, and have your photo taken right there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and to everybody at Citizens for Just Water. Paul Beery, and then Chrisella, and then Kim Stemler. Good evening, Paul. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mayor Delgado. As I said, my name's Paul. I spoke earlier about the challenge of making a medically prudent decision regarding the health of my horses in the face of opposing assessments from my veterinarian and the experts consulted by counsel. I'm happy to hear that there's no immediate need to continue my investigation of that issue. Along those lines, I'd like to offer my thanks to not only the City Council, but the City of Marina for upholding the values and standards that I've seen espoused and championed by the U.S. Army throughout my life. My father was an active duty officer for 20 years, and I grew up on bases around the country. I have a brother with the 82nd at Fort Bragg, a brother with the 101st at Fort Campbell, and a sister with the 1st ID at Fort Riley. I've tried to convince them all to follow my lead and work for the Navy so that they can move here, but no luck so far. Point is, I was discussing this issue with the Equestrian Center with one of my brothers on Sunday, and one of the things that occurred to me was that I've always taken it for granted that things like public recreation would be readily available. In my experience, every military installation emphasizes the importance of recreation programs that serve the needs, interests, and health of every soldier and every family member. And by doing so, they foster a community of active, like-minded individuals who prioritize outdoor recreation as well as physical fitness and health. While that's a nice sentiment, it's also one that's difficult to execute without an enormous investment. I imagine it's impossible when something like the Equestrian Center is left after a BRAC to the city. But the City of Marina and this council has supported a publicly accessible, affordable equestrian center that continues that legacy. And once again, I realize that I've taken the organization that's made that possible for granted, and I wanted to remedy that by saying thank you. I grew up on Army bases around the country, so there aren't a lot of places that feel like home. But when I take my daughter on a bike ride to see the horses at the Equestrian Center, I genuinely feel like that environment of affordable public access to recreation that I've valued throughout my life is being realized. I recognize the BRACs create liabilities, but you guys took it as an opportunity, and I want to say thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul, and for respecting the 2 minutes. Yeah, thanks for all your communication now and before now. So we'll move to Chrisella and then Kim Stemler. Go ahead, Chrisella.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Okay, apologies. I had some connectivity issues earlier on the first meeting. First off, I'd like to say thank you for the decisions that were made in the closed session. As mentioned, my name is Chrisella. I'm a local to this community. My personal story, after surviving a terrible situation of domestic violence, I had the incredible opportunity to participate in a therapeutic equine training session at the Marina Equestrian Center with a phenomenal trainer, Lindsay Berry. It was and remains to be one of the most powerful experiences I have had the honor of participating in, and I am ever grateful for the healing it has and continues to provide me. This facility and the members have always welcomed me and openly taken the time to educate both myself and several members of my family in the loving nature of these precious animals. Horses are not and should not be the sole privilege of the affluent. And I came from a childhood that only saw horses as an animal of the rich that could own. Marina Equestrian Center and the MEA has proven to break that barrier and given the opportunity to the everyday family. In fact, as mentioned earlier, several members of the MEA are currently working at this very moment to emergency evacuate several horses and relocating them to MEC. They are for our community, and with that said, it's greatly appreciated that the decision has gone this way as right now, but I hope that it's considered in the future as well. These horses and these people have done immense things for our community and helped with my healing as well. So I thank you for that.
Thank you, Chrisella, for educating me and hopefully others on what your experiences have been there. We really appreciate you and your family's participation. Let's go to Kim Stemler. Good evening, Kim.
Hold on, there we go. Okay. Hi, Mayor Bruce and City Council and everyone else. I'm Kim Stemler. So I'm speaking in favor of removing the stockade, and I am so confused. I don't even know if now's the time to do that. So stop me if I'm not at the right time.
Yeah, stockade specific comments are 11, what will be 11C, I'm sorry, 11B on our agenda. So soon to come.
Okay, I'm lowering my hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Anybody else wishing to speak at this time? Greg Fury. Good evening, Greg. Greg, I think you're muted on your end.
How about now?
Yes, good evening, Greg.
I was very reluctant to even speak because I've had a couple of glasses of wine with dinner. However, having witnessed the attempted character assassination of one of the finest people I've ever known, Mayor Frank O'Connell, and I don't say that because of my affiliation with him as a politician or local councilman, but because I know a lot about him and the humanity that he has practiced through his law practice. There are dog whistles in every form. They're most frequently associated with white Caucasian males blowing a dog whistle on somebody of color. Kathy Biala has been a friend of mine. I'm going to accuse her now of blowing a dog whistle. I had a woman that worked for me who I was ordered by when I was a fire marshal, I was told by a superior to minimize the safety requirements for a construction project. I refused to do so, and the gentleman got very angry at me. And I went back to my office and I pounded my fist on the table. And a woman that worked for me said, "What's the matter?" And I said, "Well, here's what happened, but don't worry about it." And she said, "You know what I would do if somebody did that to me?" I said, "No, what would you do?" And she goes, "I would walk in his office and I would tear off my bra and I would rip my blouse and I would run out shouting rape." There isn't a racist bone in Frank O'Connell's body. He's one of the finest, as I said, people I've ever known. And I'm really ashamed of you folks, including Mr. Brown, including you, Mr. Mayor, because this is all orchestrated. It's as clear as hell to me that it is. Frank's not running. He put 12 years of very hard work into the city, saved the city millions of dollars. And to sit here and character assassinate him at this point for political advantage, you should all be very ashamed of yourself. You can call me whatever you want. I know who I am. I know how fair I am. I know how I regard people. I don't judge people by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Frank's character is 120% gold-plated.
Thank you, Greg, for speaking tonight. We'll go next to Lindsay Alexander and then Ray Martin. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Hi, I'm here. So I just wanted to say to the City Council, thank you for your consideration tonight and rescinding the verbal 60-day notice. The people at the Equestrian Center are all incredibly motivated to move forward and work with the city for the safety of the animals. We thank you for that consideration. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all your work out there, Lindsay.
Yep.
And thank you for speaking tonight. We'll go to Ray Martin. Ray, you may have to unmute yourself on your end. Okay, we're waiting for Ray to unmute yourself. Ray, we'll give you a few more seconds, and we're not going to ditch you. We're just going to go to other speakers and then come back to Ray Martin.
Okay.
Hello, Ray.
Hello, I can't.
Sounds like you're having audio difficulties, but try it again. Ray, you're muted. You need to hit your mute again. Try again. Okay, Ray, we're not going to forget you. Try to get in a different place. Let's go to Jane Minglanov and then Dushan, and then we'll come back to Ray in a few minutes. Go ahead, Jane.
Hi, Mayor Delgado. It's me again. I just wanted to say thank you for rescinding the thing about the 60-day thing for the stockade, evacuation, and also about the stables. It's like a second home to me. I spend most of my time at the stables. I live in Seaside, but my heart is in Marina with my horse. So I just plead with Marina to try to keep the stables open for as long as possible, because you have the Sergeant McDonald Trail out there. You have my father's first horse, Comanche's grave, out there. So if you would just keep in mind that the stables is all part of that. And my dad reopened the stables for a purpose. And maybe the fire was one of the purposes that he had, maybe prepared for. But luckily the stables is there right now for all those people who need it. I just plead and pray that you guys will please keep the stables open. Thank you again.
Thank you, Jane, and to your father, Sergeant Al McDonald, for your dedication to horses in our community.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Dushan Tantamirovich, and then we'll give Ray Martin another chance. Go ahead, Dushan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council members. I would actually like to chime in as well. I think that Frank O'Connell has been unjustly attacked tonight, and I'm very surprised at the well-coordinated attack and from definitely an unexpected angle. I have known Frank for, I would say, probably some 14 years now. And in every communication that I've had with him, in every instance, even, although we never, not never, but we often did not agree, when I was addressing the city council, I did not agree with his positions. I've never heard Frank or seen Frank or heard about Frank as being a racist or being an intolerant to any group, be it colored, non-colored, LGBT, or this is really completely unwarranted and unfair. Thank you.
Thank you, Dushan, for speaking tonight. We'll go to Ray Martin, and we'll give you a chance to come back to us, Ray, if you can unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hello, Ray.
How you doing, Mayor and council members? First of all, I want to thank you very much for your decision in closed session, and that it's brought a lot of relief to a lot of people out there, us and everybody else. We thank all the kind words about everyone has said tonight, and that I want to address another item, and that is with the person on your staff that has done a tremendous amount of work in the community. And it's your recreational director, Terry Segrist. He is an amazing man. He's not recreation. He does everything. You know, in jobs in the military, they have your description of your job. And then at the end, and they say every other duty as assigned. And that's what Terry does. You need to commend him every time. Thank him. Everybody needs to thank him for all he's done for the city. He is one amazing man, and he deserves a raise. I thank you very much for everything and what you're going through. We just drove home on 101. The fire is now going down to Gonzales on the hillside, all the way down. We have another fire in Carmel Valley at Kachawa. Members are taking out cars and horses and trailers and bringing them back into the marina. They're doing a fabulous job out there. And I want to thank you, members of the council, and Godspeed to you and everybody else that's working so hard in this situation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you, Ray and Linda, for your decades of bringing to us the Star Rider program, which is a amazing program and tribute to Marina. Okay, we will go to Brian McCarthy. Good evening, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As one of your planning commissioners, we have talked frequently of this idea of climate refugees. As critical decision makers for our city, I invite you and staff to really look around this week through the lens of climate refugees. And yes, maybe that even includes the horses we are currently housing. And think about what impacts this promises to have on our city going forward. The issues of global warming and environmental impacts promise not to subside anytime soon. My second comment is, like Paul, I, as a military child, a career military contractor, having served several years in the war zone of Iraq, and as the military spouse of an actively serving military soldier today, I too look forward to the use of the Equestrian Center that preserves and protects the rich military history this site can serve. Tonight has shown the city that there is extreme interest in public participation in the future of the Equestrian Center. Some of that interest comes from folks like Margaret Davis, who have long been vested in this issue, and some comes from people who were only teenagers when Miss Davis was providing input. So please make sure the use of the center going forward is the decision going into that use is open to the public in the broadest sense possible, that we don't rush into dusting off 20-year-old plans and just simply using those without further question or discussion or debate. I look forward to the city preserving the rich military history and yet addressing issues that we've discussed, such as market rate rents, in a fair and balanced way that involves all of the stakeholders and certainly the stewards of that land for the last 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for joining us tonight. Let's go to Kim Stemler. Kim, I accidentally muted you. I'm sorry.
Maybe you meant that, Bruce. No. So I'm going to speak on this because I have a contrary voice and so appreciate Brian and our ability to dialogue and disagree. So for 16 years, I've walked my dogs around the stockade and the Marina Equestrian Park. I own a home in Marina and live in Marina, and my heart aches looking at the hazardous conditions of the Marina Equestrian Center. I get so sad looking at how these horses live. I know nothing about horses, but my heart knows when things are wrong. As public servants, you have a responsibility to ensure that you're adopting inclusive practices and safe practices in public parks. And what I have seen is not safe. So I know people are so attached and so committed to this park, and I am committed to keeping horses and the rich history that Brian just mentioned. But I'm really more interested in making this area inclusive. And this is a spot that has been available to just a privileged few of private horse owners and some public programs. And that makes me ill. I'd also like clarification on whether we could lose the property, because what mostly happens there is privately owned horses are boarded. I am, if that is legal, I am all for, after the stockade is taken out, creating a situation where we make a scale where there is affordability in horse boarding. But then I would want to see everybody's tax returns to be able to do that. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Kim, very much for commenting tonight. Okay, last call for anyone that wants to raise their hand so that we can call on you to speak. Let's go to Julia. Good evening, Julia. We can't hear you, Julia, but it looks like you just muted yourself. Good evening. Now you're back on mute. Please unmute yourself. Hello, Julia. We cannot hear you, but you show as unmuted. Brian McCarthy, you've had your hand up all night. Did you want to wait until after public comment, or did you? I'm sorry, I got Brian McMinn mixed up. We'll go to Brian McMinn in a few minutes as soon as we're over with public comment. Julia, you would be our last public speaker if we can arrange the technology to work. There you go, Julia. Good evening. Okay, so perhaps your computer doesn't have a speaker, but we're gonna have to move on, Julia. I'm sorry to do that to you, but it's just not, you're not coming through. Okay, questions came up. Christina asked, do we have a policy for communication between council members and public? And second, she asked, do we have a policy on the proper use of our position title? I don't know, Lane, our city manager, or Bob Rathie, our city attorney. Do you want to address those questions?
Let me have our city attorney address that.
Bob Rathie, are you still with us? Yes.
I'll unmute. I'm sorry. The city council has not adopted a policy on council conduct or such thing as a code of ethics or anything like that. So there is no policy there. However, that does not mean that that the city is without the ability to consider actions taken by one of its members. That it certainly does have that ability to do that, and has in the past done that. I think any rules that would apply would need to take into account the very important and crucial role of a member of the council being able to interact freely with all constituents in the city. It would be necessary in crafting such a policy to focus upon the conduct rather than content of speech in any such policy. That's about all I could say about it at the moment, I think.
Okay, thank you. Katina asked if it was compliant with HR city policy for a newsletter by a council member to criticize a resident, and you kind of touched on that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
I believe that the free exchange of ideas between council people and constituents are definitely protected by the First Amendment in that case.
Okay. And is there a formal complaint process?
Not that I'm aware of, although I think the formal complaint would be to contact another member of the city council and see what that council person wanted to do with the complaint. I mean,
okay.
the channel for complaints would always be, I'm sure, through the deputy city clerk's office.
Okay, all right. And then is there a timeline? This is probably Elaine Long. Is there maybe that wasn't Katina. I don't know who that was. Maybe it was Danielle. I don't know. But I think it was Danielle that asked, is there a timeline for the study of racism that the city has been discussing? What is the status of that study?
we've explored a couple options and we haven't found somebody yet, but honestly, we have so many of these other issues going on, and as we have time to delve into that more and more, we will. But we have a lot of fires we're putting out right now.
Okay. Fred Watson asked if we can postpone what is now 11C. That was on the agenda originally as 11B, which is the on-call construction. Lane, do you want to refer to that question?
No, what?
He probably was talking about Del Monte extension, but he asked if we could postpone 11C.
Yeah, I think one of the things we talked about was if we don't get to these items, if council wants to adjourn the meeting to Friday at 6 o'clock. And if the council does that, we can certainly cover that item at that time.
Okay, I think he was probably hoping that we could give him an understanding tonight so he wouldn't have to stay on the call if he knew we were going to postpone 11C, which at that time it was 11C, now it's 11D, which is Del Monte Boulevard Extension. It is 9 o'clock now. Lane, are you comfortable making the call or not making the call to ask council to postpone this item to Friday?
Yeah, I think that's council's decision right now.
Okay. Council, do you want to discuss this now or discuss this in a few minutes?
We would be taking, if it's a matter on the action item, though, we're taking it out of order on the agenda. We haven't gotten the consent agenda yet.
Right. So do we have the ability to table an item for tonight until Friday?
I think the first step would be to change the order of the agenda, bring that item up, and then the changing the order of the agenda can be done by the mayor, subject to being overruled by the majority of the council. And then that item would be before you. And then at that time, you could either decide to defer it to Friday, I expect, as part of this adjourned regular meeting.
Okay, well, please help me remember after we have public comment and council comment to address this issue of 11D, the Del Monte extension. Okay, moving through the question, I think we only have one other, and that is Kim asked, can we lose the Marina Equestrian Center? Lane or Bob, do you want to?
I believe there is a reversion clause in the deed. Under certain circumstances, the property could revert to the National Park Service from whence it was granted.
Okay.
So the answer to that, I think, is probably yes.
Okay. All right. Brian and Frank. Brian, I think you should go after Frank. So, well, I don't really know. Frank and Brian, who would you like to go first?
Brian can go first.
Okay. Brian, go ahead, please. You have your hand up. Thank you for being patient, Brian.
Okay. Yes, Mayor, members of the council, I just wanted to make an announcement. Over the last year or so, we've made progress on projects that are in the FORA CIP. One of those projects was Salinas Avenue, and we're still quite a few years out from actually doing any construction or of that road. But we did progress the environmental document. We have that ready to circulate now. So staff will be sending out notice to the residents on that street. We've scheduled Zoom meetings on September 2nd, one at 3 p.m. and the other at 6 p.m. so that we can give them an overview of where we are with the project prior to issuing the environmental document publicly. Just wanted to have a chance for them to ask questions and provide some input on it prior to going public on the document. So. And there will also be a webpage that's put together for that project that will have information on that project for the residents prior to that meeting.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Let's go to Councilmember Frank O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, at the MST meeting on August 10th, I had placed on the agenda for board consideration the possibility of having the Martin Luther King Jr. bust displayed at the Marina Transit Exchange, and I'm happy to announce that the board unanimously approved giving direction to the MST staff to enter into discussions with the city of Marina regarding the possibility of displaying the bust at the transit center on DeForest. And hopefully the executive officer will be contacting the city manager and staff to address that and hopefully come to a conclusion as to whether or not that's proper. As to the other matter relating to Ms. Biala, to say that I am shocked or surprised is obviously, in my mind, not the correct terminology. I have known Ms. Biala for many years. We've had a coffee. I have interviewed her and recommended her twice to the Planning Commission. We have been at birthday parties. We've been in the Democratic Club. We have always been cordial towards each other and have never used any negative comments towards each other that I am ever aware of. I am thoroughly surprised that this would be done. And the email that I sent to her was one of true concern by me because I had become aware of a concern from others as to comments that were allegedly made. This email that I sent to her on July 2nd, I believe, was after I had decided, my wife, to not seek re-election. I, again, did not hear, up until this evening, did not hear any response from Ms. Biala or anyone relating to the email. And I had hoped that I would, so that I could, as I said in email, squelch any concerns that anyone may have on it. This is an example of, in my mind, a true honest intent by me to make her aware when I knew that she was going to be a candidate, or actually had considered being a candidate, aware of the situation that may exist so it could be addressed before it got out of hand. And what has now happened, it has been flipped to make it look like Frank O'Connell, who is not seeking re-election, is somehow a racist or is somehow trying to pick on her or make her look bad. That email was strictly between the two people, myself and Ms. Biala. She has chosen to make it public to other people. She certainly has the right to do so. I have not, and I will not. And if people are offended by my concern to make her aware of what I had heard, then there's nothing that I can actually do about it. As far as Mr. Furry's and Dusan's comments favorable to me, I honestly don't feel that those should be even necessary. I have 12 years of working very hard for this city, and I thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I thank every past council member who has worked with me, including Councilman Brown, are fully aware of my integrity and my dedication to this city and not showing any favoritism towards any person or any color of any person's skin. I am offended, but again, I have to attribute it to either a total misunderstanding or hopefully not, but maybe Mr. Furry is right, that it's some kind of political tactic. I don't know why it would be, and I'm not going to consider that it is. But again, I am thoroughly surprised. And I think that looking at this whole situation and my relation with Ms. Biala and her husband up to this point is completely contrary to what I heard tonight and the conclusions that were made in the form of statements about me and to the listening audience. I'm 73 years old. I've heard worse, but I am disappointed that people would take what I have emailed to Ms. Biala between the two of us and somehow make it into something that it certainly was never intended to be, and it certainly isn't. And again, if we put everything aside, Mr. Mayor, you've known me since 2008. I'm not asking you to speak for me or against me. You can do whatever you like. And this Councilwoman Morton has known me for even longer than that. And so has former Councilman Brown, who I've had very positive relations with up until a certain point recently. And I will leave it at that. And thank you for the time.
Thank you, Frank. And I, not in my experience with you, ever known you to exhibit racism. I've disagreed with you on some racist issues or race-related issues, such as the redesignation of a holiday to be Indigenous Peoples Day, Christopher Columbus it was. And I was, that interested me, but everyone has just a difference of his opinions all the time, that you and I and others do. But I did see the emails. I do know that Kathy's life was sincerely rocked by those emails. When I read those emails, it almost sent chills up my spine. So I take you at your word, as I always have, and I think that you deserve to be taken to your word, of course. I don't need to tell you that. But I think that it's possible that this is a case of unconscious or implicit biases where somebody does not understand the effect that one's words, in this case your words, could have on a person of color until you're a person of color. And the whole point of the $45,000 study, the whole point of a lot of the impetus of Black Lives Matters is to look at all of the unspoken as well as the spoken. In this case, I think there is potentially unconscious biases, and it's hard for me to understand what the life of gay people are like if I'm not gay. It's hard for me to understand what other social identity groups, what their challenges are if I'm not one of them. And I don't think this is a matter of politics, because I have been aware how Kathy has been so distressed, and going after an elected official who's announced his retirement, there is no political gain in that. And I think that was part of her decision to delay, was so that it would be not a campaign issue, because we did know that you were not going to run. At least we had heard that, and we believed it. And we didn't want this to be mixed up with a campaign-like issue. The use of your title in the email, and what gave me almost chills, was when I read your email, it basically told Kathy that if she had done this bad act, that she should go to the press, she should go to public meetings, etc., social media, and basically apologize for doing what was a racist thing of taking a photograph, organizing a photograph of people of various ethnicities because of their color of skin, which was basically turning things on its head, telling her that she herself was participating in racism. All that being said, this is an item, I guess I'll use Lisa's words, but not just Lisa, that is ripe for a rich discussion. And that if we can't have rich discussion when there are misunderstandings or unintended consequences from our behavior, my behavior, your behavior, anyone's behavior that offends others, especially when it's others in a social identified group, such as an ethnicity or a sexual orientation group, whatever many myriad of groups there are out there. This is the time, and as you have done, you have participated tonight, and so has Greg and others, in expressing their thoughts on this issue. Where we go from here matters more to me than that this issue has surfaced.
Mr. Mayor, I need to point out that these matters are all certainly suitable for a rich discussion, as you say, but responses to comments under comments not on the agenda are required to be brief.
Okay, I am done, but I know that there's something in our policy that allows people in Frank's position who have been mentioned in public comment to make responses, and perhaps those are supposed to be brief, and he was fairly brief, more than I am. So I will leave it at that. And
if I may just point out one thing relating to the indigenous people. vote when we're changing Columbus Day. If you recall, I pointed out at that time, and Mayor Pro Tem Morton made a motion that since the fourth Friday in September is Native American Day, it seemed to be redundant to change Columbus Day to it. That was the only reason I had that. And as far as the email and saying go to the public, I had hoped that Ms. Biala would contact me. That's why I said I would squelch it. I wish she had used your services, Mr. Mayor, to approach me to discuss this instead of electing to go to an open meeting. It certainly would have been appropriate. I have, again, no hard feelings towards Ms. Biala whatsoever. And it seems like it was mishandled by someone, either myself or Ms. Biala. But for it to be over at this point is, let's move on to the rest of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think the race and the power differential is highly impactful to those that are marginalized. And that's partly why it's very scary to stand up in these situations. Let us go to Gail Morton.
Wait, oh, okay.
Councilmember Morton, do you want to give, Mayor Pro Tem Morton, do you want to give Lisa your space here?
Yeah, I will yield to Lisa. Go ahead,
Okay,
Lisa.
and we'll come back to Mayor Pro Tem Morton in a moment. Councilmember Berkeley, go ahead.
Yeah, there's two things. One, there you were going through questions, and Nancy Amadeo had a question about the ballots and where is there going to be a secure place to have their mail-in drop-off ballots, and so that was one thing. I think you said you were going to turn it over.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's take that.
Okay.
Can we confirm that we have a ballot drop-off box at the police department? Anita Shepherd-Sharp or Tina Nieto, if you're with us.
Actually, Mary, we've been working with the county, and they have this new ballot box outdoors that we've already secured. It'll be in place in September. It'll be out just in front of the corner of the community center in a nice protected place where video cameras can watch it, and that will be in place. So it's safe outside. Nobody has to go inside. No contact.
Okay.
That'll be in place in
So
September.
thank you. So that location will be the community center, the Rocky Haunt Community Center, which is right next door to the playground at City Hall at the top of Hillcrest, where City Hall is. And Lane, you're a little bit muffled tonight in your audio quality. I don't know if you're doing anything different. It's not crystal clear like it usually is, but you are audible. Councilmember Berkeley, go ahead.
There was the second thing, and there was a phone number who was having trouble raising her hand, but she reached out a long time ago. Her phone number is 916-742-2657. And she was waiting to speak, and then she wasn't able to, and she wasn't recognized, but she had been waiting for more than an hour. And so.
What was that phone number, Lisa, again?
It's 916-742-2657.
Okay, so she is still listed there. City Attorney, we have her here, 916-742-2657. Can the council allow her to identify herself and her issue, or what should we do at this point?
Well, I believe we're still under comments from members of the public, not on the agenda.
Okay, we're still under number 6. So if it's no objection, let's take the extraordinary step of allowing this person to speak.
Yes.
Go ahead, 916-674-2257. You can unmute yourself at this time. Okay. We did have trouble with Julia. Hello, we can hear you now. Good evening.
Oh my goodness. We went, both my husband and I have been waiting for a really, really long time. And there was one more speaker, and I was talking to my phone, trying to figure out how I'm going to have to figure this out on my phone. Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Karen Hassan calling. I've called into the city council before. I'm going to make it super brief. It's been an incredibly long day. Horse people rally together, especially in California fires. We've been doing it. Unfortunately, we've gotten good at it. It's always beautiful and commendable, and it's usually the whole community rallies together from far and wide. it's always a wonderful thing to see, and it's a necessary thing that we deal with, unfortunately. That being said, I think one thing the public really needs to know, there's a few things I think the public needs to know. Number one, that is supposed to be a public park. It's not supposed to be, from the original documents, the operating agreement with the city, the program of utilization with the national parks. It is supposed to be a full-time horse running facility with full-time lessons. And I love that people care about being with the horses there and having the horses there. It's not meant to be for private horse owners. If it was, that would be great. There would be no issue to that. And then, but I think the public really needs to know that there isn't, especially in Marina, there should be full-time programs for the children there. It should be rocking and rolling by their 22 years of running it. I also just wanted to briefly say that we came just to help fix up the facility. In being told we couldn't for a variety of reasons, we discovered the operating agreement with the city and also the long history of the buildings. And I can't remember who it was who spoke about the historic buildings. That is the last complete U.S. Army equine veterinary surgical hospital in the country.
Karen, I'm sorry so much, Karen. I do have to ask you to stop, Karen, because we have a 2-minute limit tonight, and it's my worst part. But thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, you guys.
Karen, thank you for everything you've done. We hope to stay in touch with you, and we hope that you don't give up. But yeah, just thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Good night.
All right. Good night. Lisa, Berkeley, did you have anything else?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember O'Connell, your hand is still up. It might just be that I didn't lower it. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Morton.
Yes, I did want to address the issue that was addressed tonight with Councilmember O'Connell. I have had the pleasure of serving on the City Council with Councilmember O'Connell and on the FORA board, which is often a very adversarial situation with regard to protecting Marina's interests. I've also had the pleasure of, I practice family law. Frank O'Connell has practiced law in the same venue in which I frequently appeared. I've had cases where he is my adversary. And I've always found Frank to be very respectful, a person of integrity and honest. And I've never experienced anything that I would characterize as racism. But I do also understand that I don't have that perspective personally. But if in fact things are ever said in our community among ourselves, the mayor's point about having a rich discussion is well taken. We should have that rich discussion, and we've set aside $45,000 to try to get somebody in to facilitate that rich discussion. But I did not feel that how this issue came before us this evening was a rich discussion. It felt like it was an attack. I don't know what's in the email. I wasn't involved in any of this. I just saw people speaking on a matter that didn't seem that everybody was involved in a discussion. It was more of a venting or attack. So I look forward to that study coming forward because I do want us all dialoguing. It's not this issue, it's a general issue that is permeates our society. And all of us are trying to be keenly aware of it. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Gail. Okay, I have said this word extraordinary several times tonight, but I do think we're ready to move on unless council has any other announcements in general to wrap up the number 6 communications from the floor at 9:30 p.m. Okay, thank you, everyone. I know we have things to say, and we're probably not saying them for the sake of time, and I appreciate that. So we do have a consent agenda. Does any member of the public wish to comment on that consent agenda or pull anything from that consent agenda? Not seeing anyone in the public raising their hand. Ask the same question to council members. I'll make a motion since I don't see any hands to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Anybody with any comment on the consent agenda that is motion to be approved? First, we'll go to public. And then we'll come back to the city council before a vote. Don't see any hands up. Can we have a roll call, please, Anita?
Councilmember Berkeley. Councilmember O'Connell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Morton.
Yes.
Mayor Delgado.
Yes, thank you, everyone. That motion passed unanimously with the 4 of us present. Now we have a discussion, hopefully brief, if we want to postpone the Del Monte extension to Friday. For those that are waiting for that, to give them a heads up that we're not going to get to it before 10 o'clock, which I doubt. I'll motion that I won't motion. I'll just say that I'd like to move it, but I won't move it if there's objections to doing so. But I would like to postpone this. I'll motion that we postpone the Del Monte extension item to Friday.
I'll second.
Does any member of the public wish to speak on that? Julia, we are now looking for comments just on this motion to postpone an item to Friday. Julia, did you want to speak to that? Julia Semprini.
Oh, hello. I have been wanting to speak. I take writing lessons with Lindsay Beery, and it's been a great activity for me during COVID to reconnect.
Okay, Julia, I do have to interrupt Julia because that issue is behind us and we're very time constrained tonight. But we understand that you support the MEC, the Marina Customer Center perhaps as well, and we appreciate that. Maybe you can comment at another time. Okay, so let's go back to City Council, and I hope I wasn't rude to you, Julia. That was not my intent. So we have a second. Can we have a roll call, please, on moving item Del Monte Boulevard to Friday?
Councilmember Berkeley.
Yes.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Morton.
Yes.
Mayor Delgado.
Yes. So that item is moved to Friday, and we have an item that we added to the agenda regarding replacement of a city council member, which we think is going to be brief. Lane or Bob Rathie, would you like to introduce that matter?
What happened to our public hearing items?
Yeah, we have two
I'm
public
sorry.
hearing items.
I am so sorry. So I was out of order there. Let's go to our public hearings, which I skipped. The first is to consider security and fire alarm systems in our municipal code changes.
And Mayor Donna White with the police department will be handling that item.
Welcome, Donna, Commander White. It's good to have you with us.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you. Good
Okay. You've already approved the contract with the alarm company, but we wanted our ordinance to match that. And we went through the ordinance, and the ordinance back in the public safety days. So we rewrote a new ordinance that would jive with the alarm company. We did not increase any of the fees that were in the old ordinance. However, we added 3 fees to this ordinance. And it would be a fee for not having an alarm permit, a fee for alarm companies who do not have a permit to conduct business in the city of Marina, and also a fee for continuous ringing alarms. And they go with best practices and industry standards that cities do. So this is the first reading of the ordinance, and then we come back again at the next city council for the second.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Commander White. Okay, let's open a public hearing. Anyone want to speak on this matter? Please raise your hand. Brian McCarthy, welcome back. And you have 4 minutes, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very briefly, I've talked to the fire chief about this issue before, and today I exchanged an email with him as well. And that is, as Marina builds out new homes, there are new types of fire alarms Specifically, there are fire sprinklers that are built out in these new homes, and there are bells that are generally associated with those. So when the sprinklers go off, the bell rings. The problem is living in a coastal town, right? You often hear me talk about what are the unique challenges of living in a coastal town. We are susceptible to a larger amount of rust than most towns throughout California. And so what happens in some cases, and certainly in the case of my house, which is equipped with two fire bells and fire sprinkler systems, they have both rusted and fallen off. So if my house catches on fire, my neighbors are not going to benefit from the protection that those bells offer until I get those bells fixed. Now, some coastal towns, such as Fort Bragg, California, has enacted in their ordinance language, and I'm just going to read it to you. The owner of any building in which automatic fire alarm systems or fire sprinkler systems have been installed shall have the systems inspected and maintained per NFPA 25 and shall provide a report of the inspection to the fire chief. Again, I promise to keep this brief, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. I just hope that I can continue to have discussions with the fire chief and that you will consider this maybe as part of this ordinance. Should there be an inspection requirement? We lost several lives about 5 or 6 years ago in a house up the road from me because that house was not equipped with working fire sprinklers. Those folks were disabled as part of a care facility. I hope that you will consider that going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for bringing your thoughts to our attention. Elizabeth, welcome back. Go ahead, Elizabeth. You do have to unmute yourself.
About these fire alarms, I have alarm systems in my house, but I couldn't have no sprinklers because I don't have a ceiling. I have open beams. So what would that leave at me?
Thank you, Elizabeth. That's a really good question that we can answer as soon as you're finished.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else with public comments? Thank you, Elizabeth. All right. We'll close public hearing. And Donna, what do you say to residents that may not have the right infrastructure for ceiling sprinklers?
This ordinance is specifically for alarms, it is not fire alarms. That's a totally separate ordinance. This is for like alarms people install in their home if somebody is breaking in, the burglar alarm, as if you will, a ringing alarm, first alarm, things like that. Nothing to do, it's totally separate from the fire alarm ordinance.
Okay, so it has nothing to do with sprinklers.
Mayor, this is Chief Nieto. Let me add something. I know Brian's talking with the fire chief, but this has to do with alarms. And what Brian's talking about with the rusted pipes like they have in Fort Ord, that's more on the planning side when you're inspecting stuff, which can be added later if somebody would like that. But I wouldn't say, I disagree with Fort Bragg that this is not the place to put it, because this is about the alarm systems itself and false alarms and how do we get the alarms registered, and we make sure that we have good alarm permits in the city. It's a public safety issue. One, we eat up a lot of resources responding to, false alarms, and then also alarms that haven't been, they've gotten the proper permits. This holds people accountable. And it only affects those people who are kind of skirting what they should be doing. The people that are already following the rules, this really isn't changing anything. So we certainly can, I know Doug's probably talking to Brian, but I think it would be best if we looked at it from that angle as far as the rusted pipes. As far as the other stuff about the fire stuff in the ceilings, again, that's planning. And that falls under the California State Code for planning. I do a little bit of building. This is why I know a little bit. I'm not an expert, obviously. I would have to have Fred weigh in. But those are like in planning codes and stuff. So it wouldn't affect Elizabeth, even with older homes. It's about the alarm system itself.
Thank you, Tina. And importantly, it also includes the fee schedule for false alarms. But that's been in place for several years now, and we appreciate your input, Tina, and thank you, Donna, for clarifying that as well. Okay. So what kind of a vote do we need now that we've had the public hearing and we've considered the ordinance for the first reading?
The vote, Mr. Mayor, would be to approve the ordinance for first reading by title only, waiving reading in full, and approve that ordinance in that context.
Okay, and do
Mr.
we
Mayor,
have?
I had a
Go
quick
ahead, Gail.
question.
Go ahead,
I had
yes.
my hand up previous. So the question that I have is related to the fees. And Commander, you said that these fees have been in place. I'm trying to figure out what year these fees are originating from. How old are they?
Since I've only been here 2 years, but I believe these were updated the last time the fee schedule was 3 to 4 years ago. And, but that I don't know for sure. And I don't know if Chief Nieto knows either, because she was not far behind me first coming in. But I believe they were updated the last time the fee schedule was. These aren't from the original.
Okay, so they're not from 1988 or 1996. They're from, we did a fee study. That answers the question. And so
that's correct. Those fees are from when we did the fee study about 2 years ago.
Okay, and I couldn't find that in my staff report, just the earlier two references, so I didn't understand that. And my second question to you, perhaps then, Chief or Commander, whichever one, as in your review of this and presentation to us, are these fees adequate to cover our costs? I know we can't do anything about it tonight. It takes a fee schedule. It's a yes or no question.
My answer would be, the short answer is no, but we can revisit with the new fee schedule.
Okay, thank you very much. That might be something we need to do.
So I'll motion, thank you, Gail. I'll motion we approve this ordinance for a first reading by title only, deleting the municipal code title 8, chapter 8.24, and replace it with new alarm system, chapter 8.24 verbiage.
I'll second.
Okay, let's go to a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Berkeley,
Yes.
Mayor O'Connell,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Delgado.
Yes, thank you. That motion passed unanimously with the 4 of us. And we move on to our second public hearing item regarding the updated cannabis business application permit. Fee updates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Matt Movitz, Assistant City Manager. I'll take you through this one really quickly. So in 2018, the voters, as you know, passed the ordinance that allowed for commercial cannabis businesses within our city. The ordinance allowed for the city council to establish cost recovery fees for the processing of the applications and the permits. On April 2nd of 2019, the council adopted the current cannabis business fees. One thing I want to point out is that the fees that are currently in place and the fees that you're going to be considering tonight is proposed. Neither of these would apply as much if the 2020 ordinance passes in November. At that point, we'll need to revisit these fees to adjust the fees to be based on the processes within that ordinance. So these are going to be specific to our current ordinance. So the current ordinance allows for, again, the establishment of fees through certain methods. So our business applications have a cap of $8,000. Our conditional use permits have a cap of $7,000. The administrative permits have a cap of $3,000. And all the fees, including those three, all need to be set through a cost recovery study. The cost recovery study includes staff time, consultant fees, and overhead costs. The initial fees, when we established these last year, we had to use estimates because we had not lived through this process yet. So working with HDL, we came up with the best estimates we could to determine our cost recovery. So this is a list of the applications that are necessary in order for us to process applications, permit them, and then ultimately regulate the businesses. So we have the dispensary applications and we have non-dispensary applications. This is essentially the same thing, except for a retail business versus a non-retail business. We have the cannabis dispensary CUP application, which is the applications you just saw in June. The non-dispensary administrative permit is almost the same as the CUP, with the change that it won't be approved by the city council. It'll only go to the planning commission. So that one is a little bit less costly. We have a live scan through our police department. We do a zoning verification letter to ensure that the site meets the standards before they enter the process. We do background checks through HCL. We have an appeal process, and we have some new applications now that we're talking about tonight. That includes the pre-license site visit, the regulatory compliance inspections, the re-inspections, and the tax audits. So it's currently time for an update to these fees for a couple of reasons. One is we have real world experience now. So we honed in our cost study a little bit more. And we also have some studies we haven't yet adopted. And those are ones that relate to the inspections, audits, and pre-licensed site visits. And we now have applications that have been approved, and they're moving on to the next phase of the process. So we'll need these fees. So what you're looking at here is a table of the current fees alongside the proposed fees based on this year's cost recovery study. As you look down the list here, you'll notice that a couple of them are bold and italic. Those are the new fees that are proposed this year. The remainder of them are fees that are already within our fee schedule. So we're proposing a renewal plan check, which will be annually. All the principal employees will be put through a kind of a checkup on their background check. As I mentioned, the pre-licensed site visit. This is going to be really in the building permit process. So HDL and city staff will make sure that they're meeting all state standards and everything through the building permit process, and also doing actual visits where needed. We have the regulatory compliance inspections. That'll be a once-a-year inspection to ensure that they still meet standards they need to. Re-inspections would be if they fail that inspection. And then the tax audits is going to happen once a year to ensure that the taxes being reported are accurate. So that concludes my presentations. If there's any questions, I'm available.
Thank you very much, Matt. And it's hard to say thank you enough for all the time and diligence you put into anything related to the city's cannabis policies. You've done a great job. Thank you. Council comments before we go to public hearing, or questions, I should say. Okay, let's go to the public. And Elizabeth, your hand is up at this time. Go ahead. Waiting for you to unmute, Elizabeth, if you'd like to speak. Okay, perhaps it was a hand up that needed to be lowered and I forgot. Let's go back. Let's close the public hearing. Come back to council. Would someone like to make a motion, please?
I'll make a motion. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Lisa. It's fine.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt this resolution approving updated cannabis business fees in accordance with the 2018 voter-approved City of Marina Commercial Cannabis Business Activities Ordinance.
Second.
And does your motion include authorizing our finance director to update the citywide fee schedule?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Second hold.
I'll second.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Morton seconds it. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember O'Connell,
No.
Councilmember Berkeley,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Morton,
Yes.
Mayor Delgado.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. That motion passes 3-1 with Councilmember O'Connell dissenting. And now we move to our action items, starting with our city attorney walking us through the council replacement resolution. Yes.
Just it's 5 to 10. Do we really want to jump into a new item right now, or should we withhold these until Friday?
Good question, Lisa. It's possible we could do the council replacement, but I'll leave it up to the city attorney to explain the brevity of that. Or we could, as you suggest, Lisa, just push all of these 3 items, including the stockade, to Friday night.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd just like to make a motion. We just continue to finish 11A and then adjourn.
And that A is the new 11A for council position replacement?
Yes. Correct.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Do we have any members of the public that would wish to speak on that motion of continuing tonight's meeting to hear the council replacement matter? Elizabeth, your hand is up again. Did you want to speak? I lowered your hand last time, so I know this is a recent hand raise. Go ahead, Lisa. Elizabeth.
I left Bruce. I didn't know my hand was up. It must have been itself, and I moved my chair.
So now, did you want to comment on us extending our meeting to hear one more item on our agenda?
No, I think you guys should go home. It's 10 o'clock.
Okay. Thank you, Elizabeth. I second your motion. Just kidding. Okay, let's go to Kelly Vasquez and then Greg Fury. Go ahead, Kelly, if you had some speak.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I just wanted to say that there are some of us who wanted to speak on the stockade issue, but we're very happy to be reasonable people. And, we wanted to go forward with that as well. So we are just grateful for the opportunity to speak, and we'll look forward to speaking more on Friday. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Kelly, for your understanding. This has been a very unusual evening and a long one. Okay, Greg Fury, go ahead, please.
I just support the motion. I think it'd be smart to get this out of the way, get it resolved tonight, and move on and open up the gates for Friday, because I'm sure there will be a lot of people standing at the gates wishing to express. I got muted. Did anything I say come through?
You were talking about the gates you expect to be there Friday with people willing to express, and then something happened.
I expect there will be a lot of people knocking on the gates or standing outside the gates on Friday. I think it's prudent to get this done tonight to resolve this, whatever your protocol is going to be, and open up the gates for Friday for an issue that has attracted a great deal of public attention.
Thank you, Greg. Okay, anyone else with comments on this matter? And we'll come back to council. Can we have a roll call, please, vote?
Councilmember Berkeley. Councilmember O'Connell.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin.
Yes.
Mayor Delgado.
Yes. All right. Thank you. That motion passes unanimously, and we move now to our city attorney to address this matter for us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, as I mentioned just briefly at the beginning of the meeting, that Councilmember Arusha did resign his position on the city council. That resignation was submitted in writing today to the deputy city clerk and was effective immediately by its terms. So there is a vacancy at present on the city council. And on the August 5th agenda, we did present a report to the council on filling the vacancy in anticipation of this resignation. And I could just briefly touch base on that. The city charter at section 1.03 states that a vacancy in the elective office of council member shall be filled by appointment by the council. Such appointee to hold office until the next general municipal election and until a successor is elected and installed. The council has a 40-day period within which to fill this vacancy. Should the council fail to act within that 40-day period, then that task would fall to the mayor. The deadline for placing a seat on the general election ballot for November 3rd was the 113th day prior to that election, which passed on July 13th, 2020. So therefore, it is not possible to put the seat on the election for the general municipal election to be held in November. The charter does not allow a special election to be called to fill the council vacancy. Instead, it requires that the council appoint a person to fill council or the mayor to appoint a person to fill the vacancy, and that such appointment continues until the successor can be elected at the next general municipal election, which will be November of 2022. As you all know, the city recently transitioned to district election. So the inquiry logically would be, must council member Arusha's seat be filled by someone from his District 1 area, or can it be filled from an applicant of the city at large? The answer is because the newly vacant seat is at large, an at-large seat. Adam was elected at large. The appointed replacement can be filled from the city at large. The appointee could, but not necessarily must, reside in District 1. The council member elected term was set to expire in November 2022, and at that election, his seat could be filled only by someone from District 1. That's just pretty much a summary of what the procedures are. At the meeting on August 5th, the council did
City, I don't know what they are.
consider and adopt a resolution that outlined the process to fill a vacancy in the city council. And this morning, when I got notice that the resignation was effective today, I took that resolution and made some revisions in accordance with what I believe the direction council provided on August 5th. I know I did email that resolution to the council members. I know that the members of the public have not seen it. Assistant City Manager Matt Mogensen is putting the resolution on the share document screen right now. I don't know if council wants me to read the resolution, or I think it is, there are certain parts of it that probably are important to members of the public. So
Can you enlarge it, Bob? It's hard for me to read it.
yeah, I can't, but Matt maybe can.
So I would ask that our city attorney read these, read it, because some people may not, they may be on a telephone and not actually reading this. So as to, for example, the filing period, so if you would definitely read those provisions. Thank you.
I'll start after the now therefore clause and skip the recitals, if that's okay.
That's okay.
It's the operative, I'll call them the operative provisions of the ordinance. Number one, the filing period would be from Monday, August 24th, 2020 to 4 p.m. to Monday, September 7th, 2020. To 4 p.m. Monday, September 7th, 2020. I'm sorry, it's late. The application shall include the same information as is used on the application for appointment to a city commission. And that's consistent with the practice that was followed back in 2008 when 2 appointments were made. The deputy city clerk shall format an application which includes the same and make it available to the public on the city's website and to any individual who requests the application by email or by mail or otherwise. The applications as submitted shall be made available for public review on the city's website. Number 3, persons from the city of Marina at large shall be invited to apply to the deputy city clerk by email or as necessary during the application period up until 3:59 on the last day of the application period. The application period closing on Monday, September 7th at 4 p.m. Number 4, application shall be provided to the city council on Tuesday, September 8th, 2020, and a city council special meeting via Zoom shall be set for Saturday, September 19th, 2020. Number 5, applications are invited to attend the city council meeting via Zoom on September 19th, 2020, and make presentations in support of their application of up to 10 minutes. The city council may ask questions of the applicant with no time limit set for the question period. Number 6, the public will be allowed public comment after all the applicants have made their presentations and have been questioned by the city council. Public comment will be limited to 4 minutes per person. Number 7, upon the conclusion of the public comment period, the city council should commence voting by email ballot sent to the deputy city clerk. Each ballot must be identified as being submitted by the voting council member, will be available for viewing by the public after the vote, and will become part of the public record. Number 8, ballots will be counted by the deputy city clerk, who will announce the votes for each applicant. Balloting will continue until an applicant receives a majority vote. 9, following the official canvass of ballots, the new city council member will be sworn into office and will serve until November 2022. Number 10, This resolution rescinds and supersedes Resolution 2020-103 of August 5, 2020, addressing the same subject matter. That concludes the operative provisions.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Sure, please go ahead.
City Attorney, would you read number 3 again, please?
Certainly. Persons from the city of Marina, and then in parentheses, at large, close parentheses. I don't think I mentioned the parentheses when I read it.
There you go. That's what I meant.
Shall be invited to apply to the deputy city clerk by email or as necessary during the application period until 3:59 p.m. on the last day of the application period.
On the screen, number 3, I didn't see the words at large. Maybe I just missed it.
I think you may have missed them. That was added. That was in your resolution that was adopted on August 5th.
Yes.
In the resolution I emailed to you, I probably emailed an earlier version. The only 2 changes, I believe, and I'm not sure if 10 is on here. Maybe Matt can take us down to number 10. We also added that 10 is missing from this version. I'm sorry, I apologize.
As is at large. It is not in paragraph 3 of this version. This is not.
It is not in the version that's on the screen. That's correct. It is in the version that I believe I emailed to you.
Can you read number 10, please, Bob?
I can read number 10. Yes, sir. This resolution rescinds and supersedes Resolution 2020-103 of August 5, 2020, addressing the same subject matter. It just says the resolution that you adopted at your last meeting, which did not have dates for commencing the application period and for setting a special meeting, because we didn't know what date Councilmember Arusha was going to resign. It was all pending that date to trigger the ability to put those dates in. So that's why that resolution would be superseded by this.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Bob. Go ahead, Lisa Berkeley.
So I don't know if Matt changed it because I went and got the one that we were sent. Do you want me to share screen so we can all see that we're looking at the most recent same document?
The most recent document is on the screen now.
Okay, great.
Can you look at number 3, please, Matt? Matt, can you go to number 3?
Appreciate
it.
Make it a little larger, please. Thank
you. There on number 3, we see the at-large parens. And then Matt, can you go to number 10? So is it true, Bob Rathie and Matt, that the only differences that we're looking at now are the additions of the parens in number 3 and number 10?
I believe that's correct, yes.
Okay, you need some water, Bob?
Oh, okay. My wife is just showing me a picture outside of our house of the whole hill out in the river fire being in flames. What was the question?
This is the document you sent earlier today, Bob, to the city, to the deputy city clerk, and I believe the council.
Yes, this has 10 and has the at large in section 3. I believe those were the only changes.
Okay. All right, council, questions or comments? Go ahead, Mayor, Councilmember O'Connell.
No, I had my hand up for another thing, but relating to number 3.
Okay. All right, well, I'm ready to move ahead on this. Everybody else okay? We'll have a motion by somebody and then we'll go to public comment. I'll motion that we approve this resolution before us outlining the procedure we'll use for filling our council seat.
Second.
Okay, I heard Councilmember Berkeley second that. Let's go to public comment. Brian McCarthy, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. First, I want to take an opportunity to make it, as the kids say these days, Facebook official, that I intend to apply for this seat. And more information, I think, to both the council and the public to come. I certainly invite any member of the council to reach out to me directly if I can answer any questions they may have. But secondly, I want to ask, do you want to clarify the way in which you will choose to vote on applications? In other words, will you wait until a motion is made and seconded? Will you choose voting order by lottery? how will that work? It doesn't seem to be clarified in the actual procedure, and so that would be my only question. Thank you so much. Hope you have a great night.
Thank you, Brian. Let's continue public comment and then we'll get to the questions. Anybody else in the public that wish to comment on this matter? Okay, not seeing any. Okay, let's close public comment period and we'll come back to Councilmember Berkeley.
Yeah, just to go back to what Bob said, did I hear you say correctly that you can see the fire outside your window? And if so, do you need to go?
No, it's across the valley for me. I'm in South Salida, so we're looking out at the Santa Lucia range. They're out at Highway 68, so it's quite a ways from me.
Then why, Bob, is your wife with a garden hose outside?
Well, believe me, I hope not.
Thank you, Lisa, for making sure.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. Bob, can you address Brian's question regarding number 7 on how the ballots will be voted and how that process works?
I think that all the applicants would be voted on at one time by the city council. So there would be 4 ballots being voted. Any candidate if a candidate did not receive 3 affirmative votes on the first ballot, then a second ballot would be circulated until a candidate did. And I assume that there would be discussion between the votes would be announced and would become part of the public record.
Okay, Bob. So following this,
wide latitude to establish procedures for this.
Okay, so Bob, if 4 of us voted, let's say there were 10 candidates, and 4 of us voted for one candidate, and you got 4 different names, or you had 3 different names or 2 different names, so that no one name got at least 3 people. How would we know? I don't understand how this would work.
I'll have to think about it because I've not been through it, so I'll have to think about that. So balloting would then continue. I assume that after the first vote, there would be a discussion, further discussion, and council would then have to just take another vote.
Okay, so if Mohammed, would it be disclosed to the 4 voting electeds the names of the people that the vote, the names, the information behind the vote, so we know that Mohammed got 2 votes but not 3?
Yes, I think that would be disclosed.
Okay. We'll go ahead, Councilmember O'Connell. Frank, I thought your hand was up, so maybe.
I'm sorry.
Number
yes,
8.
my hand was up. Back in 2008, when I was one of the applicants, there was a vote by the council members. The result of the vote was made public, and then they had a second vote, and if I recall, a third vote, and none of the applicants were eliminated for failure to get any votes. And ultimately, it resulted in the majority of the council electing a member. I think at the first one was Jim Ford. So it was just constantly a vote, one after the other, until they got to a majority.
Right.
And if there's no majority, then ultimately it would be the mayor making the decision later on.
Correct.
Okay, so by a series of votes, we understand what's happening, and pretty soon we coalesce around a person that gets at least three votes. Is that how it goes?
Yes, or never. It just gets
Right.
2 and 2.
Right. Okay. All right. I think that answers my question. I hope it answers Brian's. Anybody else have any questions?
Mayor, if I could just jump in just on a clarification of that issue with Bob. So we talked a majority vote, and again, you're trying to get one candidate. So if 2 council members vote for a candidate, so a candidate gets 2 votes, and then the other 2 council members, 1 votes for another person, 1 votes for another person, is that considered a majority because you have 2, a majority voting for that one candidate, or are we interpreting majority has to be 3 votes?
Majority has to be 3 votes.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
Correct.
Okay, let's see. Do we have a motion? Yeah, we did have a motion before we went to public comment. Or maybe we didn't.
We did.
We did, okay. So can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Berkeley?
Yes.
Councilmember Morton?
Yes.
O'Connell?
Yes.
Mayor Delgado?
Yes, you see how easy this voting is going to be?
Yes. I second that, Mr. Mayor, if that's a motion to make voting easy.
Yeah, okay, I think we have a good process. All right, I understand that this is the end of our meeting tonight. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with it to the end, and thank you to the public. Have a nice evening, everyone.
Okay, and we're
adjourned
until Friday at 6 p.m., August 21st, when the council will take up matters in closed session that were not taken up this evening.
And also the matters on open session that were left over.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes,
I'd like to
thanks.
thank you all for your patience and understanding tonight. It was an interesting meeting in many ways.
Stay healthy. Be careful, Bob.
Hey, Bob, can I clarify just for our procedures also, will they be taking public comment on Friday again, or no public comment other if it's on a specific agenda item, but no general public comment?
We've already taken public comment on items not on the agenda. We've
That
done
would
that.
be clear to the public.
Public comment on items on the agenda would be in order, and that would be for 4 minutes each.
Right. And it's a mop-up meeting, so we don't go in reverse. Doug McCowan, wish you and all the firefighters safe return home. Every night you come home and you're out on an incident. I hope everyone's safely working on those incidents. And to Tina Nieto, I'm sure the police are involved in their ways as well. Yeah, everybody stay safe.
Thank you.
Okay.
Echo that, Doug. Thank you for your leadership, and we wish you stay healthy and safe.
And I think maybe we should just make as it's Councilmember Arushi is not with us tonight. I don't believe he's on the list there, that we kind of close this meeting by wishing him well in his future endeavors.
Yes, and before we do that, an interesting point about Doug McCowan, his brother Tom has a photo on a bulldozer very close to 15-foot flames of a wildfire in July 2020, and that photo has somewhat gone viral. So Doug comes from a family of very brave and esteemed firefighters. So give Tom our best, Doug. It's great to have both of you doing fires your entire careers. It's pretty cool. Yes, let's adjourn tonight in appreciation for Councilmember Adam Urrutia, who will no longer be on our city council, but he definitely did his fair share and more.
Yes. Thank you, Adam, very much for your service, and I wish you well up in the Rockland area.
And your family stay safe and well. May you thrive.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.